right? And I said, so, blah, blah, blah. And I got the same thing. Yeah. Okay, well, this, and this, and trying to make a joke. And he goes, well, I wouldn't say that. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're killing me.
He's giving me crickets. Yeah. It was just like, oh my God. This is the hardest thing I ever did. I pulled the interview. I just pulled it like second commercial. I figured, okay, I texted the publicist, said, wake your guy up because this isn't going well. And I went another couple minutes and the guy was he was almost belligerent, like he resented being there. And we went to commercial break, and unexpectedly, my producer was kind of shocked. But and I said, Poland, that's it. I'm not doing the rest of the interview. I'm not sitting through 55 minutes of this guy and trying to get him to talk to me, because I can usually get anybody to talk to me pretty quickly. But this guy, it was almost like his mission in life was to not talk to me. So I thought, you know what, fine. So I cut him off and said, thank you for the interview, but we're not continuing it. And then I called his publicist, and I dropped a lot of 4-letter words straight in a row. And she apologized up and down. And she was funny. Still the most classic line from a publicist. She's like, and I'm going to do this, and I'm calling him, and I'm saying this, this, this. And I said, hey, listen, girl, don't go out on a limb on this. It's not that important. And she said, oh, you don't understand. My clients do what I want them to. I started laughing, and I said, okie dokie then you go, you do it. Whatever it takes. And he did come back, and he did kill it on the morning show. Killed it. And it was great, was funny, was engaging, was all those things that my friend said he was. So he made it right, and that's why I'm not mentioning his name.
Well, and you just get some people that are treating an interview like it's a telegram and are getting charged a nickel a word, and it's like, this is free. You can talk as much as you want. We've got water. We've got oxygen. You could just keep going, and and it's so tough to get somebody where conversation flows. That was the and when it really flows, time goes by and you're not watching the clock and you lose track and you go over with the time. When you do a show like that and you have a guest that you cut off in the middle like that, what do you do with the rest of the time? You're live.
I know. And I ran music. I told them to do up some music. I mean, I gave my producer, he's a saint, Fred. I got to give him a shout out. Fred Stafiri. I mean, he is a saint, and he's put up with a lot with me, but he's an excellent guy, and he's an excellent engineer, and he boards really great, and he's amazing. And he's like, all right. And he just queued up a bunch of music and started running it. So I ran music for the rest of the hour. But there was just nowhere to go. I mean, I didn't do that lightly, because you know how it is. You got live air, and you got people listening, and you got all of these things. And but I couldn't do the interview. The guy was so bad and so belligerent and so uncooperative. I didn't have enough questions to ask him, and I got to the point where I wasn't going to waste my time. I mean, I am still a business consultant, and I do have clients and obligations. So that to waste my time with this guy doing something that I do out of really the goodness of my heart. Yes, I do have a heart, for those of you listening. But I couldn't do it. So that's what I did. I ran music.
We had a guest, and great guy, great cause, and everything. And sometimes you just encounter different linguistic patterns. And his thing was extremely long pauses. And so I remember me and Russell are kind of leading into each other and like motioning, like, is he still there? Because he would pause and then Russell's like holding up fingers like, I clocked that one at 8 seconds, And
oh my God, I totally relate.
And 8 seconds of dead air on the radio is just like, and a comet has hit the earth. We repeat, a comet has hit the earth. I hope no one's tuning in right there.
It's the most, isn't it horrible? It's the most painful thing. And when you're live, and I talk over people. I mean, I'm from Philadelphia, right? We talk all the time. So when you have these scenarios where people stop talking and they're like being thoughtful, well, I can't see you, and now I can't hear you, and now I have a problem, so my brain is scrambling to fill the space. And I've had that happen. I have had people who have this weird ending of a weird timing of ending what they're saying. I don't even know how to explain it. But you know who I'm talking about? These guys who go,
Russell is shaking his head in support.
Right? I mean, and you're like, whoa, I feel like I've been thrown off a cliff. One, I'm not ready. Two, I don't even know how to respond to that because I'm not ready. And three, I'm not ready. So it's just weird because they kind of lull you into this pattern when you're really listening and you're like, And, if you're a good interviewer, you're listening. You're not formulating your next question. And then they throw you off the ledge with shutting up. It's like, dude, you should have shut up like 3 sentences ago. I was ready then. I'm not ready now. I'm into it. And oh my God, it is so painful when that happens. And then that's their cadence, and that's how they got to. And you're scrambling to adjust, and they're tough interviews for me. You know what, Mark? We're doing actually a primer for anyone who wants to be a guest on a radio show.
Yeah, this
is all the stuff the hosts are saying don't do. Okay, because you're killing us.
Yeah, turn off your cell phones. Turn off all your electronics.
You know what my worst was, and I got to tell you, and this is a guy who was a big sports guy in Philadelphia. You're all going to know who it is. I won't mention his name, but he was a big sports guy in Philadelphia. He got jammed up. He went to jail. He was on drugs, yada, yada, yada. He came back. He's sober. He's trying to get everything together. He's got a ministry now, all this. So of all the people who should know better than to stand me up for an hour of live radio, it should be him.
Oh, I remember this.
Remember that?
Yeah.
For an hour of live radio. And you know what he did? He called me 8 minutes in after he got called by his best friend who kind of arranged all this. And he said, I had broken down a couple blocks from the station and I wanted somebody to come pick me up. Are you really kidding me, dude? Addict behavior is addict behavior. And sometimes when people get sober, the addict behavior is still there. It's like, dude, you could have walked down to the station and did this interview. You could have even called me a couple minutes before the interview when you said you broke down. But instead, he said, I didn't have your number. I was trying to call the station. Well, dude, are you thinking it through? Because you're calling my cell phone right now.
Right.
Message.
Well, it's like the same people that say I couldn't do it. I was sick. I was giving my dead aunt a kidney, and that's why I couldn't do it. But you look like on Facebook that you're just drunk at the beach. I mean, was the surgery on the beach? Because you look like you're drunk at the beach. We have a list here. We have a list here that Russell gave me of suggestions for the guests, and I'll see how you feel about them.
All right.
Silent cell phones. That goes without saying.
I see what you did there.
Remove heavy jackets. And I'm going to go bing in front of everyone that I break. So I've got 2 bings. Bing, bing. Please remove loose wrist jewelry. It makes noise.
Yes.
I don't do that one. Do not adjust or touch the mic when it was hot. It will create noise. I don't do that.
Yes.
Do not whisper. Mic will carry sound and you will be heard.
Especially when you're insulting your guests right before the commercial.
Or you think no one's listening. Like, oh my God. Oh my God, she's horrible. It's horrible. Why won't she stop talking?
How longer do I have to go?
Nobody's listening.
It's over yet?
Yeah. Oh, this is horrible.
Is that the end?
Yeah.
Can I go now?
Yeah.
Oh, they're still listening.
Avoid shuffling or moving papers. That's one of my favorites when people do. Usually people...
For you, it's index cards.
They're not as noisy as regular paper. They've got a more solid sound.
Yes, they are.
They are not. They are not.
It's like breaking half the rules.
It's sheet paper. I'll give a half bing for the paper. Do not click pins. Bing, bing. I'll give 2 bings for that.
That's my big one. That's my big... are you kidding? I do this all the time.
Yeah, right.
A listener called in and said, could you stop that?
Right. I'm taking pins and I'm literally tap dancing to Bill Bojangles Robinson. Yeah, Mr. Bojangles. And I'm just grooving with pins, and Russell just look at me like, what are you doing? Now, Russell will come in. Russell will bring in Morocco's and get the nacho special and sit down and just crunch in what previously was the world's noisiest chair in radio. Yeah. It's actually documented. Avoid thumping the desk to make points. I have guests that do that, and they don't realize that just sounds like Thor slamming his hammer when you do it.
With their points, they're like banging their head and banging their hands to make the point, and you're like, you need to stop. I grab their wrist and I just pull it away. Or how about the people who kiss the mic? who, like, I'm like, dude, first of all, that mic has been around.
Yeah, you don't want to kiss this mic. You do not want to kiss this mic.
Hear that mic.
Yeah, Mark used it.
You want to give it at least 4 inches of clearance, okay?
Yeah. I mean,
bounce off of it. Oh.
Yeah, you want a little gap, but you do not want to make any contact with the actual mic. That would
No. 8 million before contact with that mic. You really don't want to touch it, okay?
Avoid chewing gum or food. I mean, that goes without saying.
Well, that doesn't apply to me because I don't normally speak. I can have all the nachos. That goes without saying, I want.
But he'll bring in a bag like a grande fiesta sized bag of corn chips. And you're like, no, Russell, Doritos. No. What are you thinking? Oh, it's just Doritos. Yeah. One of the quieter foods eaten by monks in monasteries.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? I could do some noisy crunching with some Pringles or something. You know how they are noisy. The crunch noise?
Yeah.
Right.
If you turn to look at something, keep your mouth near the mic. People don't realize they turn away, and on the radio, as you turn, it's like the sound just goes away. Mm-hmm. It just trails away. Try to minimize ums, uhs, and you knows, and also ahs.
Clearing. And throat clearing.
Oh yeah.
People who in the middle of their sentence go.
Well,
like what?
any kind of vocal tics, mm-hmm. or any kind of what you might think is a controlled gas release from any part of your body. No, don't do it. Just do it. Just outside.
Like the silent burp and release the air.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just go right to the mic.
It's shocking how you can't get the mics to work when you want them to work, but just try to sneak out a fart. And it's
No, you know what? For every one of those rules that we have, because I do the editing here too. For every rule that there is that we have on this list, somebody did something.
Right. That's why the rules exist.
I just thought it was a good general rule. The noisy jackets. It's like a couple years ago before we even had this, it was like you could hear everyone's jackets.
Well, we had a guest, and I'm not gonna say the name. And
the elbows,
and I won't say her gender, but she was on the show and she said, "I'm on a," and we're sitting here. She's a really good sport, and she says she's on a diet, and she says, so I'm taking some stuff for the diet, and we get moving because I got to take my stuff, and we got to get moving because And I said, this diet stuff you're taking. She's like getting edgy because me and Russell are going over stuff beforehand. Let's get it going. And she says, well, I might need to take a break in the middle. And it's like this diet stuff you're on, you should do what you got to do right now.
Noisy.
Yeah, because this studio is small. And that window doesn't open easily. So you need to take care of that.
Quietly.
It gets quiet. I mean, this is like an Apollo capsule in here. This is not that spacious, and we are one, and
when they talk about breathing the air of your ancestors, they're not kidding, right?
Yeah, it's in this room. It's in this room.
Knocking them out.
But I think it's interesting that you said that was a primer for people that are going to be a guest on the show. And, the old one is turn off your radio. You can hear yourself later. You don't listen to it while you're on it. You can't do that.
No, you can't. Exactly. Because there's like 10 seconds of delay.
Yeah, and then the person gets confused because they hear themselves twice, and it's like they're stuck.
Where am I on the radio?
And they're lost.
Hey, I can hear myself. Echo.
Right.
And see, you've got to
go. Am I on?
You've got a morning show, so I think an additional rule for you would be, hey, how about you use your voice a little bit before you talk to me, so you don't give me that first voice of the morning voice. It's like, hello, Donna, it's great to be on the show, or whatever, because it's that voice that we think our voice is sounding right, like when we're picking up the phone and we're pretending we weren't asleep because we should be awake by now, and it's not working.
Right.
It's like that voice, that when people's parents say, "Have you been drinking, young man?" and you go, "No, I don't think I have, and I resent that accusation, father."
I might just slow that down in post, make you sound even more drunk.
But